Live your dreams, they said. It'll be fun, they said. What did they not say, though? That chasing your dreams can feel like you're being chased in a maze that constantly shifts around you. That putting yourself out there in the 21st century is something like going to school naked only to be laughed off the planet. That you'll find things you despise under the very things you thought you loved. Being a creative entrepreneur can feel like you're driving a car without brakes and no headlights in the dark, swerving along a steep cliff. And even if you achieve a goal, doesn't mean you won't wake up in a cold sweat middle of the night screaming into the void, why am I not happier? Living your dreams can be a real nightmare. Hi, I'm Jamie Benson, a reformed fine artist and aspiring sellout. After growing out of / aging out of the dance industry and then tripping through some hilarious comedy-based identity crises, I am now writing, producing, performing in everything from commercials, comic books, video essays, and for film and television projects. You're gonna love this. Today, we're going to discuss the stark realities of pursuing a dream, what kind of nightmares you'll encounter along this treacherous road, and how best to traverse the harrowing journey. Then we'll define what success maybe probably actually is, and how you might actually maybe kind of make yourself happy doing it. It's not too ambitious at all. As someone who spent over 25 years being actively creatively expressive and experiencing fleeting moments of so-called success, I have a crap ton to say about it. This is for us to compare notes. All right. Whether you're thinking about making a creative hobby a career or currently in the throes of your own passion projects in a professional capacity, the group therapy session starts now. Number 1, fame sucks more than it used to. Putting yourself out there in any significant way can result in an avalanche, an absolute onslaught of rejection. Far more personally damaging, perhaps, than more traditional work. Many people daydream about not having a day job, about being released from the shackles of the so-called rat race, and getting paid for some artistic pastime. Whether that's painting, writing, making music, making films, on and on and on and on. But seriously, exploring a career in creative industries usually involves repeatedly and vulnerably ripping open your chest, pointing at your own innards, and begging for people to have opinions on them. This is sometimes even as you learn that creative discipline and hone your personal voice.
And your taste is good enough that you can tell that what you're making is kind of a disappointment to you. You know what I mean?
When we do that, we've struck an unspoken deal with our friends and family, the gatekeepers of our industry, and the devils of the internet, to take that inner truth and scrutinize it relentlessly. And I don't just mean nasty internet trolls. That's boring. Things like silence, apathy, even bad lying can be way more hurtful, probably more.
Ethan and I both thought that programs were really easy to read.
Once I was told by an entire dance faculty that I was way too skinny, and it looked really weird when I danced, thus kicking off a 10-year-long tango with body dysmorphia. That kind of rejection is different, perhaps more personal, than being turned down for a corporate promotion, let's say. Listen, rejection is always sucky. With a day job, though, you can sometimes, and I say sometimes, afford a little emotional distance from the outcomes. You're not necessarily that job, you just work there. There's less breathing room between you and your art. You often don't have as many people to blame, too, when something is not received well about your work. You'll have more setbacks, and those setbacks will have more dire consequences. And this is the kicker. Even if you, by some miracle, manage to achieve a small fan base, you might also experience the modern downfalls of the parasocial relationship, like obsessive ideation or the devaluation of you as a human person.
I don't care that it's normal. I don't care that this crazy type of behavior comes along with the job, the career field I've chosen. That does not make it okay.
What can we do about any of this? Well, your friends and family can be the most hurtful without knowing it when you first start something. I say leave them out of the developmental stages of a new project. And if after that they still don't seem to get it, they're not your audience probably. In fact, most friends and family are not your audience. Stand firm in your point of view. Someone or someone's out there will get it. I'm also someone that's experienced true evil in the underworld that is the comment section. Note though, how many of those mean commenters have a profileless account? It's an act of cowardice to be pitied. If they manage to put themselves out there like you did, they'd probably get way more shit for it. It's a sign of success in a way that your work is being seen by enough people to include the people that don't like it. The other good/sad news is that the more success you have online, the more mean comments you'll get, and the less of a dent it'll make on your personal psyche. Number 2, we're designed for disappointment. Pervasive cultural narratives about living the dream are romantic, sure. Wrong, yeah. And all around us, scary. Get this. Film and television is hypothesized to be one of the primary contributors to our understanding of reality. Yikes. Many researchers will love to tell you that the entertainment industry promotes narratives in which talent and hard work alone will get you far. Because the world is fair. It's a good one. This is also known as the malleability narrative. Let's use one of my favorites as an example. Flashdance. No. Don't come for me. I love this film. But a self-taught dancer from the club scene would not dance like this. That dance double, Maureen Jahan, is classically trained. She also wouldn't get into a prestigious ballet company doing a jazz number. The malleability narrative is also very present in social media and within the myth of the American dream. Even if in our cynical, irony-drenched world, we can intellectually understand how talent and hard work is not always conducive to traditional forms of success, these powerful stories are pounded into our subconscious when our minds are mush, and then reinforced repeatedly throughout our lives due to the media we consume. UCLA researchers discovered that most of the main characters in the film and television they studied achieved financial success and social mobility. Characters of color were by far most likely to be included in a malleability narrative, even though, for instance, Black Americans in the real often experience downward mobility. Repeated exposure to these narratives, even if inspiring and useful on some level to change perceptions, can harm us psychologically when our own lives don't match. A strong narrative can so thoroughly burrow into our collective unconscious that it just seems like it was always there. Did you ever hear that breakfast was the most important meal of the day? Ha! Joke's on us. That was just a marketing campaign for a baking company in the 1920s, created by the founder of PR, Edward Bernays. Media manipulation, though, is a chicken or the egg, snake eating its own tail kind of deal. They reinforce each other. Media makers guesstimate where the mainstream is in order to access the largest slice of an audience. Those audiences are both absorbing and responding to those messages. So ultimately, we create the mainstream together, for better or worse. Often worse. Though, between you and me, we brainwash each other. We tell ourselves stories that feel true but are absolute hogwash. And in the end, we have more power than we think we do to change these stubborn narratives.
A few years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do an interview like this probably and put it on the air. It would have been, but this is not the subject one talks about. So things
You could have done it. You would have had to fight your senses and all that, but you could have done it and you should have done it.
How do we challenge this programming? I say, if you've put a lot of time and work into your passion projects, don't assume they suck if they don't find what feels like success right away. And don't let anybody tell you your ideas are not possible. When in doubt, here's a short deprogramming mix of wildly popular things that just needed a little more time or the right people in order to make happen.
You should know that Back to the Future was rejected. The script was rejected over 40 times.
Every single person, except my best friend Gail, said you're going to fail.
Everyone with a phone and a desk in town passed on it. So to come out of Sundance with a big sale.
So I applied jobs for 30 times, got rejected. Even the KFC, when KFC came to China, come to my city, 24 people went for the job. 23 people accepted. I was the only guy that I received it. I applied for Harvard for 10 times, rejected.
2 3-ring binders, each with 200 pages of rejections for the Brooklyn. Dear Mr. Burns, thank you so much.
Number 3, it's an uphill, up mountain battle. The work in these creative industries can be a million times harder and a million times more competitive than they might even seem, and they already seem hard. Most things worth doing take an immense amount of effort and time. But if you're also trying to be competitive in the arts, it's probably more so.
You will work until it hurts.
It's been said that the script for the movie Uncut Gems went through 160 drafts. At time of filming, the US Screenwriters Guild seems to have less than 30,000 working members. In order to be a working artist, take the workload you thought you'd do and then maybe quadruple it. And that doesn't even account for the privilege, proximity, and dumb luck you'll need also. Breaking into the rarefied space of your chosen industry can be a mother of a and it's getting worse. Between 2002 and 2012 in the US, the number of people that identified as independent artists and performers grew by close to 40%. Between 2001 and 2014, self-employed musicians grew by 45% and writers grew by 20%. With a rise in self-producing technology in the last few years adding to the saturation in the markets, there's even less space to wiggle yourself into than there used to be. Building the means for sustaining life is literally a full-time job, likely more. I've worked 3 jobs my whole life while still trying to be competitive in a creative pastime. This burning the candle at both ends, biting off more than you can chew, keeping one's nose to the grindstone nonsense can result at you failing at everything. Having a life, pursuing your dreams, and keeping the jobs required to pay for it all. The rise in reality television, I suspect, is probably partially due to people trying to fast-track this self-expression to notoriety pipeline. How do I negotiate this? I commit to sitting with my ideas and not accomplishing anything. I'll explain. To be oh so candid, I rarely feel like writing. And when I used to force myself to sit down and accomplish something, there was resistance and resentment if gold star ideas didn't just dump out of me. What helped me is deciding on a repeatable daily schedule. 10 minutes, 1 hour, 3 hours per day, whatever. The only point was to sit and hang out with my muses. Make friends with your creative time.
All this time we could have been friends.
And even if you think you're too tired, or just it's not the right day, the muses may just grant you with an unadulterated flow state when you least expect it. Some of my best ideas happened after sitting with myself in a bad mood long enough to have an unforced epiphany. By the way, you're no longer in a bad mood when something like that happens, so everybody wins. Once this habit is created, it'll feel so weird if you don't do it every day. Or it's whatever you decide, right? Once a week, 3 times a week, just on the weekends. Make your choice and stick to that. Also, explore and build upon what you like about the process of making the art that you make without attaching results. Segue. Number 4, loving outcomes, not process, is a losing battle. You'll discover things you know you hate under things you thought you'd love about being a working artist. Let me explain. Cheers. You may not want to be an author. You might want to have written a book though, go on a book tour, sign your book, and hear how it impacts people. That's not crazy, that sounds fun. But the hours of writing per day, hunting for representation, pitching your book may not be something that you're interested in or do at all, even though it is required to some extent to have that experience of success. This might leave you unprepared and even worse, disheartened by your new passion project. And we want to try to avoid that. The process of creating things is most of what your life will be. And yet the fantasy often takes place after the painstaking groundwork required to be successful has already occurred. Do you have to love every part of the artist's life you choose? Of course not. My point, there are unforeseen day-to-day realities and potential quality of life heartaches that you won't know about your dream profession until you go headlong into the deep end of it. For example, one of my quiet passions was stand-up comedy. So I tried it for about a year and really did not enjoy the daily open mics to work out enough material to do the thing that I did enjoy, which was having personally written funny jokes, hopefully, that made people laugh. Though I definitely grew more accustomed to the brutality of the daily open mic situation, it's just not something that I wanted to be such a big part of my life. But that was amazing info to have, right? I eventually found that workshopping funny writing through writing groups was a much better fit for me personally. I say, don't be precious about your passions. Don't dabble either. Seriously try them. And once you do, make sure the parts that you thought you'd like are enough to endure the things that you like less as much. Even better, use it as an opportunity to identify and reframe those things so that you like them a little more. This will give your pursuits less sticking points and more forward momentum. Number 5, whoops, you're a failing business. Striving to become a working artist is by definition a small business venture, and most small businesses fail. Living your dreams requires a living wage. Certainly one of the main goals for many on becoming a working artist is to get paid to do the thing that you love, right? Plot twist that you saw coming a mile away. Arts fields are notoriously undervalued and underfunded, which leads to exploitation and low to no starting wages. Australia recently did some good research on this, noting that the average income of working artists was 26% below the national average, and that included non-arts-based income. Only 1 in 10 artists worked full-time on their creative practice, while the remaining 91% got most of their income from other work. The report found that the annual average income based solely on creative work was around $23,000. Arguably not a living wage, especially if you live in a bigger city. In order to get paid in the arts, many artists are classified as self-employed. Artists in the US are 3.6 times more likely than the rest of the workforce to identify this way. If you're trying to be a working artist, you are also likely, perhaps accidentally, trying to be an entrepreneur. No, that usually means wearing more hats than is fashionable. You may now feel obligated to run your own media organization through social platforms, research and apply to endless amounts of funding and exhibition opportunities. Sell yourself or your products to people in offices, at parties, and over dinner. You wanted to be an artist and are now just trapped again in the hustle culture dystopia of late-stage capitalism. Blech. According to the IRS, self-employment means you are the sole proprietor of a business. The Oxford Dictionary defines an entrepreneur as, yes, a person who operates a business, also that they take on greater than normal financial risks. Even Oxford knows with the systems in place, it's a crappy business model. For many, this is also antithetical to being an artist, which can induce a cluster of inner turmoil. What can we do to counter these roadblocks? We can revolt and destroy capitalism as we know it, which, hey, I'm listening. It just might take a little time though. So in the interim, we can reimagine many common obnoxious marketing tactics. Something that helped me is realizing that branding is really just an expansion of the creative self-expression you're already doing every day. We create our identities with the clothes that we wear, music that we listen to, and movies that we love. I learned if you put the same imagination you put into making your art into the promoting of that art, hey, 1, you'll have a lot more fun. 2, you'll grab some attention for your work. When I started writing seriously, I made a page on my website that wasn't just a receptacle for old bios, but dedicated to pitching myself as a writer. I even used the basic tenets of search engine optimization, and yes, people and businesses, like RuPaul's Drag Race for instance, have found me through the Google, hired me, and paid me with money to write for them. And that feels great, which makes me want to work a little bit more on this kind of stuff. And then that'll perhaps happen for you too. Number 6, success is not happiness. Money through art is not necessarily successfully living your dreams. Uh-oh. In the Cambridge Dictionary, related words for the idiom of living out dreams are succeeding and achieving. When we say we want to live our dreams, I suspect we're sometimes omitting something a little critical. That we want to live a wildly successful version of our dreams. In fact, our dream may actually be to be successful. The method we use to get there can sometimes be a little secondary. It's what we want to be known for, being successful at. But what is success in art? Whatever it is, it's probably not what we think it is. Multiple studies over the past 20 years have shown that we can subconsciously link success with wealth and status. As a society, we tend to prioritize objective results. What major awards have you gotten? How many art degrees did you get? And more importantly, from where? What high-profile projects have you done? Again, we can intellectually know that money and power isn't everything, but it's rare for people to internalize subjective ideas of success, which has to do with things that are hard to measure, like satisfaction, which we'll talk about in a second. Bright side, there's a growing number of real-life anecdotes from people being deeply disappointed with their spot at the top of the capitalist food chain.
New Girl was the brick hitting my head, and I was finally like, oh, this is the childhood dream you always wanted, but it doesn't feel the way you think it's going to feel.
Right. And yeah, I need to let my pride not get in the way and push through this just to compete at the Olympics again. I need to go, sit down, take a rest, see what's wrong mentally.
Recently, like when I win, I don't feel happy.
I mean, it looks great when you got a cool car and you got good, nice clothes, and you know, and you've done something that people admire, you know, but it can never fulfill you. You can never be happy.
Yeah. Then, if everyone loves you, then you know you'll give yourself. You'll love you. Like without even realizing how sick that was. It was like, yeah. That's the healing power of fame.
And in the last few years, subjective career achievements are becoming more significant in the media we consume. This demonstrates a course correction or realignment. Audiences, for instance, are now starting to require that the characters they watch evaluate themselves and more fully emotionally develop. Arthur Brooks, a Harvard researcher on the science of happiness, has noted that false idols like power, money, pleasure, and fame don't work to make you happy. So what does? And how can we incorporate that into being an artist so we can actually live our dreams? What's the real fantasy of being both happy and creative? Living out your creative dreams might involve redefining the pursuit of success back to the pursuit of happiness. What's the source for our desire for creative success? If money, power, pleasure, and fame are elusive and ultimately not going to make us as fulfilled as we hoped, how do we succeed at being happy? What can we do to feel more content with our decision to live this mysterious creative dream of ours? Well, what's the opposite of a nightmare? According to Psychology Today, the most common good dreams involve social gatherings, playing with animals, adventure, new romance, and feeling fortunate.
If we dig deeper,
We'll likely uncover subjective desires under these more objective ideas of success we've all been conditioned to chase. For instance, when we land a new gig, perhaps what we're truly excited about is being recognized for our value. When we spend time with friends, family, and partners, maybe what thrills us most is being loved, accepted, and included. When we make more money, it's possible that what we're actually after is that sense of safety and freedom that money can provide. The trick is to get specific about what makes us happy. Harvard happiness scientist again, Arthur Brooks, argues that happiness is not a destination, it's a direction. After studying a bunch of high-profile individuals, his team has identified 3 critical aspects of happiness. Let's talk about them. Number 1, enjoyment, which they equate to pleasure plus people plus memory. Interesting. Number 2, satisfaction, which they define as joy after struggle. Curious. And number 3, meaning, which has to do with coherence, significance, and purpose. Brooks also notes that there are 4 distinct pillars that lift us up to a state of happiness. Hope, family, friendship, and work where we earn our successes while serving others. Novel idea, right? Wish we did it more. In order to feel successful and happy in pursuing your art, we may want to deliberately cultivate qualities such as inclusion, safety, respect, enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning in our creative practice. What I've found personally that helps me access those types of experiences include cultivating a like-minded community. I work in writing groups that meet regularly. It's a safe, inclusive environment to share your work with people you enjoy, respect, and help in meeting their goals. Mutual encouragement and shared victories can really foster a sense of satisfaction. Number 2, create small wins. This breaks the pressure of making it big. I try to stop and reward myself when I finish anything. Incremental celebrations mark moments of joy after struggle and build up a bank of fond associations and memories with working on your craft. Number 3, learn to rest. Jesus. Okay, I definitely struggle with the pressure to consistently produce something. Surrendering yourself to factors as they are and walking away from them regularly actually frees up your mind to be creative. Play with some puppies or something if you have access. Number 4, I laugh in the face of my failures. I try to give myself permission to be compassionate about my mistakes and even embrace the gallows humor that I need in order to diffuse the frustration. If you can reorient your fixation on failure to the cool new thing that you may have learned because of it, that'll also help take the sting out. Blah. In conclusion, yes, chasing your dreams can feel like you're sprinting through a horror film. But I'm not here to murder your hopes. Just poke a few holes in the box to let them breathe a little. Let us walk the creative path together with our eyes open, discovering the things we like along the way without fixating on the final destination. Instead of obsessing over things like fame, fortune, and the lack of a day job, try focusing on things like building community, making meaning, and feeling satisfied. And hey, don't let capitalism turn your passion into a full-time misery machine. No matter how successful we think we are, we're still fleeting footnotes in the grand scheme. We're all musicians in our own sinking Titanic. We might as well play the music we like on the way down. Unlike some other people that like to talk to cameras, I shall not pretend that I know everything about this topic. I feel like we have to say this because of the internet. People just like to miss the point. These thoughts are by no means definitive or exhaustive. Just been thinking about it a lot lately, and this is what I'm finding out right now. Give me your findings in the comments below. I'm definitely gonna take a look at them. Let me know what you'd like me to cover next, because this gaze agenda is a funny, happy one. Or a happy, funny one. You decide. Thanks. Today. Whew, that was rough. Again, don't like no. Ooh, all the alcohol was at the bottom. Bright side, there's a growing number. Oh no, not bright side. Bright side, it's bad for people. Released. Siren. I think it's going okay. I really can't tell.